The story begins with a small, happy family. Michael, a content father, is married to a beautiful wife, and they have a smart child. He has been working as a successful insurance salesman for the past 10 years. Interestingly, before his insurance career, Michael had been a policeman for 7 years, though the reason for leaving the police force remains a mystery. On this particular day, just like any other, Michael's wife dropped him off at the train station for his daily commute to work. Over his 10 years of commuting, he had become familiar with most of the passengers on his usual train, and some had even become close friends. However, as he arrived at work, his day took an unexpected turn. His boss summoned him to the office, and what had started as a bright and pleasant day quickly turned gloomy as Michael was suddenly and inexplicably fired from his job. His employment contract was terminated without any clear explanation or wrongdoing on his part. 10 years of his life felt like they had been squandered, especially since he was only 5 years away from retirement, and being 60 years old made finding new employment seem like a daunting task. On top of that, Michael and his wife hadn't set aside any emergency funds or savings. They also needed money for their child's education. To drown his sorrows, Michael decided to visit a bar and have a beer. There, he unexpectedly ran into an old police buddy named Alex Murphy, who had been his partner during his years as a police officer. In that bar, he also crossed paths with another police friend who had risen to the rank of captain, Captain Hawthorne. Later, Michael headed home on the train as usual. While boarding, he accidentally bumped into someone and, to his surprise, realized that this person had stolen his phone from his suit pocket. Unfortunately, by the time he realized it, the train had already started moving, and he couldn't pursue the thief. Trying to shake off the incident, Michael settled into the back of the train car, engrossed in a book. Suddenly, a woman named Joanna took a seat in front of him and struck up a conversation. Eventually, she presented him with a challenge and the promise of a $100,000 prize if he could locate someone named Prine before the train reached Cold Spring Station. Furthermore, Michael had to discreetly plant a tracking device inside a bag carried by Prine, who was an ordinary passenger, unlike Michael, who was a regular commuter. Joanna had already stashed $25,000 in the restroom at the back of the carriage as an initial payment. There was one strict condition attached to this challenge that Michael couldn't divulge any details about it to anyone. Joanna disembarked at the first station, leaving Michael somewhat baffled by this bizarre task. Yet when he discovered the $25,000 in the restroom, given his pressing financial problems, Michael made the decision to take the money. He had no intention of seeking out Prine and planned to disembark at the upcoming station. However, as the train came to a halt and Michael was preparing to exit, a young boy approached him and handed him an envelope, warning him that he had to follow through with what he had started. Inside the envelope was his wife's wedding ring. It suddenly dawned on him that his family was in danger, and Joanna had coerced him into locating Prine. Michael urgently borrowed a phone from a fellow passenger he knew and attempted to call his wife, but the call wouldn't connect. He then tried to contact Murphy, but Murphy couldn't be reached either. In a state of panic, Michael left a voicemail explaining his problem. After that, he approached Walt, a fellow commuter he was acquainted with, and used a note in the newspaper Walt was reading to convey the situation. Michael also requested Walt's help in reporting this to the police once they reached the next station. Walt received the message and disembarked at the next station. Suddenly, Joanna called Michael on the borrowed phone and accused him of breaking the rules by revealing the challenge to Walt, which she claimed would lead to Walt's death. As Michael glanced out the window, a tragic incident unfolded before his eyes. Walt, who was about to cross the road, was forcefully pushed and struck by a bus. Now Michael found himself unable to seek help from anyone. Eventually, he reluctantly began following Joanna's instructions. He initiated his quest to locate someone named Prine by meticulously inspecting every punched train ticket. If the hole on a ticket was at number 7, it indicated that the passenger was headed to Cold Spring Station. After scrutinizing every train car, Michael narrowed down his search to a few individuals, all bound for Cold Spring Station, none of whom he recognized. Eventually, Michael became suspicious of a man who consistently carried a bag with him. When he inquired whether the man was Prine, the tables turned, and the man began interrogating Michael, demanding to know his true identity and warning him not to meddle in this matter. From the way the man fought back, Michael could tell he was highly skilled. Ironically, this only deepened Michael's conviction that the man was Prine. So, during their altercation, he discreetly planted the tracking device provided by Jonah inside the man's bag. Michael felt as though his task was now accomplished. Shortly afterward, Michael received a call from Murphy, who was aware of Michael's predicament. Murphy explained that Prine was a witness to the death of a government employee suspected of wrongdoing. However, Prine knew that the government employee was not guilty of what he was accused of. Instead, he had been murdered by the city's elite. Today was Prine's scheduled day to testify, and she was going to meet an FBI agent at Cold Spring Station. However, it became evident that the city's influential figures were aware of this plan and had lured Michael into finding Prine to eliminate her. Realizing this, Michael understood that he had unwittingly marked someone for death with the tracking device. He turned to Murphy for assistance in protecting his family. Not long after, Michael received another call from Jonah, who informed him that he had placed the tracking device in the wrong person's bag, resulting in the man's death. With only 2 more stations until Cold Spring, Michael knew he had to locate the real Prine urgently, or his family would face dire consequences. He began his search for the man once more and discovered his lifeless body on the train floor. Michael had inadvertently played a role in the death of the man, who was, unfortunately, an FBI agent assigned to protect Prine. It finally dawned on Michael that one of the passengers on the train was Jonah's accomplice. When the train made a stop at a station, Michael had to hide from the police as a fellow passenger had reported his suspicious behavior. Due to his chaotic actions throughout the day, Michael had no option but to conceal himself with the deceased agent's body. The police searching for him failed to uncover his whereabouts. As the train continued its journey, Michael faced a new challenge as the floor door had been locked from the outside. He had to re-enter the train from the exterior, but encountered difficulty as his bag became stuck, causing his money to scatter in the wind. After successfully rejoining the train, Michael took the initiative to disable the AC, gathering the remaining passengers into one carriage with functioning AC. This strategic move would aid him in finding Prine, not to mark her, but to save her from impending danger. Michael's sense of duty as a former police officer was reignited, compelling him to protect an innocent person. As Cold Spring Station drew nearer, he had no choice but to carry out Jonah's request. Michael encountered a passenger who posed as Prine, and, suspecting her, he armed himself with a hatchet, planning to move her to the front carriage for safety. However, his suspicion proved wrong. The passenger turned out to be Jonah's accomplice, the one responsible for the FBI agent's death. With the train approaching Cold Spring Station, the man pressured Michael to reveal the real Prine's identity. Michael, resolute in his determination to safeguard her, resisted, leading to a violent altercation that ended with Jonah's accomplice being thrown off the train by Michael. Following this, Jonah called once more, this time demanding not only Prine's discovery, but also her immediate execution, as the station was nearly upon them. Out of all the passengers on the train, Michael eventually identified Prine, who was, in fact, a woman. Jonah called yet again, insisting that Michael must carry out the killing. However, Michael vehemently refused the gruesome request. In response, Jonah ominously declared that everyone would perish. The call abruptly ended, and a powerful explosion rocked the train's engine and driver's compartment, causing extensive damage. The train hurtled forward uncontrollably, its brakes disabled. This was Jonah's sinister plan. If Prine survived, she would ensure the train never reached Cold Spring Station. Quickly, Michael sought help from the train staff to relocate all passengers to the rear carriage. He then uncoupled the rear carriage from the rest of the train, allowing it to avoid a catastrophic collision while the front part derailed off the tracks. Michael gathered all the passengers and urged them not to disembark just yet, because the ordeal was far from over. He requested that everyone block the windows with newspapers to shield the interior from prying eyes. With the train now concealed, Michael initiated a conversation with Prine, seeking the truth behind the situation. Prine's account aligned with Murphy's explanation over the phone. She had witnessed the murder of a government employee, but shockingly, she disclosed that the perpetrator was a police officer. According to Prine, before the government employee died, the police officer mentioned the word noble. Michael clarified that certain individuals were determined to prevent Prine from testifying, intending to eliminate her before she reached Cold Spring. At the station, she was slated to meet an FBI agent who would protect her and her case. Michael was resolved to safeguard her. All the passengers on the train were now informed of the gravity of the situation. Outside, the police had arrived, fueled by false reports that Michael had commandeered the train and taken passengers hostage. Consequently, their primary objective was to apprehend him. Captain Hawthorne and Murphy, who were both close friends, were present as well. Murphy was designated to negotiate with Michael upon entering the train, and his first concern was the welfare of Michael's family. He had reached out to the FBI to ensure their safety. Murphy was perplexed because earlier in the day, Michael had contacted him regarding a challenge. As Murphy attempted to reason with Michael and encourage the release of the passengers, he mentioned the word noble in one of his sentences. Michael turned his gaze toward Prine, who cowered in fear, hiding behind a seat. Prine's description of the police officer who had killed the government employee pointed directly at Murphy. With his cover blown, Murphy could no longer deny his involvement, especially when Joanna called him and instructed him to eliminate Prine. Despite Murphy's strength, Michael was unwavering in his determination to protect Prine. Meanwhile, outside the train, a sniper with X-ray vision reported to Captain Hawthorne that Murphy was under attack. Captain Hawthorne swiftly ordered the sniper to take down Michael. However, Michael had fallen to the floor and grabbed the X-ray marker from Murphy's clothing. The sniper, with X-ray vision, mistakenly identified Murphy as Michael due to the blue X-ray marker now in Michael's hand. The sniper fired a fatal shot that struck Murphy down. When the police and FBI agents stormed in, ready to apprehend Michael, the passengers rallied to his defense. They hailed Michael as a hero. An FBI agent, who had been waiting for Prine, confirmed that Michael's family was safe, as they had apprehended 3 suspicious individuals near Michael's home. With Prine's testimony and the FBI's report, Michael could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The police began to comprehend his actions. Word quickly spread that Michael was, in fact, a hero who had saved a key witness to a murder conspiracy involving the city's political elite, even implicating the mayor. Michael was joined by his wife and child, who had heard the news and knew he was a hero that night. Captain Hawthorne also came over, praising Michael's knightly spirit and then smiling as he walked away. A few days later, on a train, Joanna was spotted in one of the carriages, relaxing. Michael approached her, wasting no time in revealing her as the mastermind behind the conspiracy involving the government employee's death and the train accident that night. He displayed his police badge, and the film concluded. Moral lesson from the story: don't ever take a weird challenge from a stranger on a train, especially if it involves planting mysterious tracking devices or trying to be a detective. You might end up with play hide and seek with X-ray vision sniper.